Life as We Know It with Tom Walton.
I found myself in the middle of a lively conversation recently about movies, more specifically the best movies ever made. The six of us tossed out the names of movies we considered Hollywood's finest work, and as you would imagine, several of the films were obvious choices. I think we all mentioned Citizen Kane, Orson Welles' 1941 classic. But beyond that, we found little common ground. There's a good reason for that. We all have our own standards for excellence, whether it's a movie or a baseball team or a candidate for public office. Maybe one of your favorite movies of all time is one of my clunkers. Perhaps one of my favorites is one of your turkeys. I decided to craft my own top 10 list of my favorite films of all time. I know I will leave out some worthy contenders, but I only have 4 minutes here. You may be surprised that Citizen Kane did not make my cut. It was a great film, to be sure, but to me, greatness alone is not enough. To make my list, a movie has to be watchable over and over again, which rules out Gone with the Wind. At 4 hours, it's just too long. I have certain genres that I prefer. I enjoy comedy. I like drama if I care about the characters. And I really like a good scare at the movies. I'm not talking about blood and gore films, but well-written and well-acted horror films. In other words, movies that frighten me, not disgust me. With that in mind, here are my favorites. First, the comedies. For my $6 at the senior matinee, nobody does comedy better than Mel Brooks. That means his two best films, Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, lead my list. Both movies were released in the same year, 1974. Imagine that. He created two classics in 1 year. I also include The Long, Long Trailer, released in 1954. Starring America's favorite television couple, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, it was a hilarious tour de farce as they encountered one disaster after another in their honeymoon trailer. It may have been slapstick, but Lucy was the best at it. Okay, what about scary films? For sure terror, I have to include Jaws, Steven Spielberg's 1975 masterpiece. I think of it every time I walk on a beach. Who can forget Jack Nicholson's chilling turn as the caretaker slowly going mad at the Overlook Hotel in The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's 1980 psychological thriller. The same goes for Anthony Hopkins, who scared the bejesus out of us all in 1991 in Silence of the Lambs with his creepy affection for cannibalism. His closing line in that movie remains one of the best ever. I'm having a friend for dinner. Let's not forget about Alfred Hitchcock. His 1960 movie Psycho gets a spot on my list. I loved the James Bond movies too, especially the early ones starring Sean Connery, so Goldfinger makes the list. My favorite all-time movie musical is Chicago. If there's ever a performance starring really bad singers like me, I plan to audition for the role of Billy Flynn. The original Mary Poppins, a Disney classic, is on my list too. I enjoy movies that dramatize historic events. I'm not sure enjoy is the right word, but I certainly appreciated a movie called Saving Private Ryan for reminding us of the horrors of war. Well, that's actually 11 films, not 10, but I just couldn't help myself. If you insist I round it off to an even dozen, I'll add The Great Race, starring Jack Lemmon, Peter Falk, and Natalie Wood in 1965. But that's it.
Life as We Know It is written and hosted by Tom Walton and is a production of WGTE Public Media. Life as We Know It with Tom Walton can be heard on WGTE FM 91 every Monday afternoon during All Things Considered at 5:44 p.m. Or hear past episodes at wgte.org/life.